Welcome back to Nigeria at 56, recursive, resilient and rising. We're turning our attention now to another matter which the president also spoke about in his speech, which we'll focus on today. And he actually did say that problems are security, corruption and the economy. Talking security, I've got Dr. Sonny Moneke, who is here with us in studio. He's a consultant advisor on counter-terrorism and allied critical crime. Thank you for coming on this evening.
Thank you very much.
And then we'll have in our studios in Abuja, Dr. Obi Ezekwesili, who is the co-convener of the Bring Back Our Girls group. Thank you for joining us this evening. And we also have Mr. Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who is the Minister of Information. Thank you for joining us this evening. Well, we'll have to start here in Lagos, taking a look at that speech which the president did say our problems are security. Or better still, let me get it to Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Speaking about security, when the president spoke about security, many also remembered his inaugural address upon assumption of office, how he did say if they did not succeed in bringing back the abducted girls, they cannot consider themselves to have succeeded. That's this government. Would you then say his speech today, because he also spoke about how they've succeeded in taking back certain territories, how do we juxtapose his earlier speech and the fact that the girls are still missing?
Well, I believe what Mr. President said was that there can be no closure on the Boko Haram issue until and when the Chibok girls are released and they're back home in the safety of their parents. And I don't think that actually contradicts what he has said, that we have defeated Boko Haram. Of course, anybody who is familiar with the philosophy of insurgency will understand that it's not your regular kind of war where you sign an armistice and then the guns are silent, forever. But rather, it's more of a kind of guerrilla war. And what Mr. President said, which cannot be contradicted, is that, well, as of 2015, May 29, we had a huge chunk of our territory in the hands of Boko Haram, and that today that is no longer the case. By 2015, many parts of the of the northeast were not safe. They were inaccessible. People could not travel there. That is not the same situation today. A year or 15, 16 months ago, schools were closed in most parts of the northeast. Today, schools have reopened. All we are doing today is mopping up the remnants of the insurgency. So, yes, we believe that there will be no closure to Boko Haram until and when those girls are released. Not only those girls, we have other people who have also been kidnapped, and the government is working daily to ensure the safe release of these girls.
Well, when the president addressed the media, that's his first media chat, he also did say at the time that they did not have credible information about the whereabouts of the girls. Has anything changed ever since then?
Well, if you listen to my press conference a few weeks ago, in respect of the failed negotiations about the release of the Chibok girls, it's clear that on virtually every occasion, starting from the one that took place in August 2015, where for about 10 days security operatives were at the appointed point to exchange Boko Haram prisoners with the girls, what actually happened again was that as of that time, the factionalization which has now blown into the open was already in the works. Because, like I explained in that press conference, when we were approached that there will be that the Boko Haram leadership was ready to exchange some of these girls for their own, prisoners. The president was quite worried because they insisted that some of the armorers, the Boko Haram prisoners who were actually the masterminds behind the bombs, should be included in the list of those to be released. But despite that, Mr. President accepted, and the entire release process was activated. But for 10 good days, we were there, and there was a breakdown of communication within the group, and the leadership crisis has started. And that's exactly what Mr. President meant by saying, we are ready to negotiate, but we must have credible people we are talking to.
Well, Dr. Ezekwesili, I mean, the chronology of events ever since the president assumed office, if you could put that into consideration, would you agree with those who think, well, yes, we've seen what is being done, and that these things do take time, rescuing the girls?
Today's 901 days since the Chibok girls were abducted. I think that if you considered the fact that many people who have had cases of abduction of loved ones, they would never have thought that 24 hours was too short a time for the abducted relation to be in the keep of people who are bloody and could do anything to them. So I always say to people that when the conversation about the abducted Chibok girls is taken from a very impersonal context, it's very easy to be that rational. But, on a point of reasonableness, one thing that was clear to us as a movement that came out on the 30th of April to advocate for the rescue of our Chibok girls is the fact that it is not going to be an easy exercise. We didn't think it was an easy exercise. We still do not think that it is an easy exercise. But one thing we were very particular about is that a focused and sustained, energetic approach at getting these girls could have by now resulted in a good outcome. And on that basis of reasonableness, we think that 901 days are simply too long for a nation state called Nigeria to not have been able to establish the location of our Chibok girls, as well as to have a very clear and very convincing plan to bring them back and keep them in the care of their parents.
Let me bring it here to Dr. Monica, who's in the thick of things concerning the fight against terrorism. What exactly is it that we're not getting right? Because for Dr. Ezekwesili and her group and many Nigerians, they're still worried that it's almost 1,000 days and still no clear answers to what we're finding, talking about the Chibok girls.
Thank you very much. The first thing I will start with a question, and the question is a noble one. Where do you think you will have that kind of number of girls? Where do you think you will find them together in this whole Nigeria? We are not talking of chicken. We are talking of human beings. And you know the size and the weight of a human being. Then when you are now talking of hundreds of people, then it becomes an aberration for us to start to be talking about Chibok girls being here or being there and so on. I'm just trying to be modest and decent in my speech.
What's your point?
Otherwise, if I were to say what I have in my mind as a research person, we need to be careful with the politics we are playing with these Chibok girls.
Why do you think it's politics?
Yeah, because by this time, if we really have a working counterterrorism agency, we should have located them. by now.
If we
We're
really
talking of
have.
years.
That's an indictment,
You think we don't have?
Well, what we have is a fighting force, as far as I'm concerned, which is a major segment of counterterrorism. Counterterrorism is an administration. So we are talking of only the operational force. What of the administration? What of the research? Because these are guys that are supposed to know exactly where to go and look for them. And then, if you have any reports, then you send the report to the operational force, who will now swing into action. So, as far as I'm concerned, we don't have a structure. The only structure we have is fighting force. And then, what we're talking about now is that we should set up a formidable force, just in line with what United Nations recommended, third force. The first force is the military. The second force, you talk of the police and the paramilitary forces. So we need a third force, which is devoid of the military and the police. We're not saying they're not going to be included. But the thing is that the administration must have a clear distinction from the operational force. But the problem we are facing now is that both of them have been fused together. There is an intercourse between the two. So we have a problem with that. Until we get it right in terms of structure, then we're not heading anywhere.
Dr. Monica, you have to remember that this isn't just a Nigerian-based operation anymore. It's crossed the borders, because we've got these mercenaries coming in from across the borders as well. So how about, or who should be sitting down now to form this plan, this strategy that you're talking about, to engage?
Once we have a comprehensive structure, there are segments that will be able to do that. But the thing is that, like I said, we just have one front, and that front will not be able to take care of that. We are just fighting a war conventionally. The conventional war is almost over. Yes, we are used to the fact that they have been defeated in terms of conventional war. What of the other aspect of the war?
Let's jump to Alhaji Lai Mohammed and get his quick response on this one. Alhaji Mohammed, what could you tell us about this? That we have just a fighting force, and he says, look, this is an anomaly. Perhaps that's why we're not progressing from his perspective, if I could paraphrase what he says.
Well, I'm afraid it is not correct that Nigeria does not have a counter-terrorism policy, or that Nigeria just has a fighting force. But before I go to that, I want to, I want us to put things in the correct perspective. Yes, the issue of the unfortunate kidnapping or abduction of Chibok girls is an issue that affects everybody. It's a human issue, and it's not out of place to be emotional or passionate about it. But at the same time, we must also be rational in our approach to it. Yes, today might be 901 days of the abduction of these girls, but it also must be understood that these girls were abducted about 400 days before this administration came to power. And this must not be forgotten. And by the time we came in, the trails were very cold. Secondly, it's not correct that we do not have, a focus or coordinated efforts. Unfortunately, when it comes to issues of, fighting terrorism, it comes to issue of security, it's not something you can, you can expose on a daily basis. Now, unknown to many people, of course, many people would probably appreciate the fact that today, terrorism is a global issue. It is an issue that has no frontier, has no boundaries. And I know for a fact that every day, today, the intelligence officers of all the Lake Chad Basin countries, plus other European powers, meet regularly to discuss the issue of terrorism. So it's not correct that we do not have a counter-terrorism, policy. And I know because I'm in government, I know because I relate directly to the Office of National Security Advisor, I know because I make my duty to get briefed regularly.
We'll get more insights from you in just a moment. Don't go away, please.